Hello, I'm Dr. Q. Welcome to my channel. This is the 12th class of Principles of Economics. In this video, I continue covering firm theory and focus on the production relationship of firms. In the end of the class, you are expected to be able to identify and model the diminishing marginal returns. In Lecture 10, topic of determinants of price elasticity of supply, we learned that there are three time periods firms face: immediate short run, and long run. When the market demands firms to change the output level, the firm's profitability depends on how quickly it can adjust the economic resources or input for production. If the time is so limited and firms feel like they can do nothing to adjust the production level at all, then length of this time fall into category of immediate short run. Immediate short run doesn't provide us much of economic insight. The second time period is short run, which is long enough for firms to change its output in a degree by employing a larger or smaller amount of labor, raw materials, or other economic resources. However, this period is too brief for the firm to alter the production capacity fundamentally, such as adding new production facilities or installing more equipment or changing the plant size. In the long run, the time is long enough for a firm to adjust everything, including economic resources and plant size, to change output level. In perspective of an industry, the long run provides enough time for a firm to adjust the plant size, extend or shrink the plant, double the size, or dissolve and leave the industry. It's also long enough for a new firm to hatch, or an existing firm to switch from another industry and enter into this industry. Get back to our Charlie's chocolate factory example. If Charlie increases the chocolate production by adding another shift of workers, running the production line day and night, using more cocoa beans, milk, sugar, and other raw materials, those belong to short-run adjustment. If the need to produce more chocolate persists, and Charlie has enough time to increase the chocolate output by adding new production facility or installing another production line, or even double the size of the factory in all perspective, or invest in another plant, these are of long-run adjustments. Again, there is not a cutoff value on calendar time to separate short run from long run. We cannot say 1 month is short run and 1 year is definitely long run. It depends on how much time the firm needs to adjust production capacity. It's an industry-to-industry, firm-to-firm analysis. Generally speaking, the production capacity can be adjusted fairly quickly for light manufacturing industry producing small consumer goods, such as home textiles and food production. But for heavy industries, which are capital intensive, involving large or heavy facilities, equipment, such as oil production, gasoline refinery, airplane manufacture, it easily takes them several years to install new production line or construct a new factory. So it takes them longer time to step from short run into long run. A quick side talk. There's another thing about the short run I like to make a note of. The ability of the industries to store inventory can smooth out some of the decisions for short-run production. Of course, it depends on the nature of the product. You cannot have much of inventory if the product is perishable, and it may be costly to store too much of inventory. We focus on the short run first. In the short run, in order to adjust the quantity of chocolate bars produced, Charlie cannot adjust the factory size or add another production line. But Charlie can change the number of workers and the quantity of raw materials. Now, without losing any generality, let's simplify the input-output relationship analysis by just focusing on the number of workers hired and the quantity of chocolate bars produced, which is labor output relationship, assuming all other resources are fixed. So in this context, labor is called variable input as it's changeable. If the labor input were 0, which means no worker works on site, the chocolate production is apparently 0. Then one worker is hired. He has to be able to handle all processes in production line, switch from job to job, but we would expect some chocolate bars being produced. What about we hire 2 workers? Things get a little bit better. The 2 of them can cooperate and be a bit more efficient and produce more chocolate bars. But the big, long production line is still overwhelming. This difficulty should be eliminated eventually if we keep adding more workers, right? Like 3 workers, 4 workers, 5 workers, and so on. There are 14 workers shown on the production line here. It looks like a right number of workers for the established production capacity. The equipment is fully used. Workers can be specialized on doing one single task as opposed to switching from job to job. Time is also saved because of this. So it seems like more workers is better. But is it true? Can we enjoy indefinite rise in chocolate production simply by adding more workers in this factory? Does it mean that as long as we jam enough workers together into the space, this Charlie's factory can produce enough chocolate bars for the whole world? Apparently not. With a fixed factory size and production line, adding more workers initially increased the output, but beyond a certain point, adding more workers would cause overcrowding. And there are not enough machines in proportion to the labor. Workers have to wait in line to use the machine to finish the task. Nobody can do their 100%, and labor is underused. Eventually, adding more workers would result in congestion and exhaust all the standing room. People has to be on their tiptoe, and no production can be fulfilled, and we probably won't get any chocolate bars. What I just described is called the law of diminishing returns. This law states that, assuming technology is fixed, as successive units of a variable resource, say labor, are added onto a fixed resource, such as capital. Beyond a certain point, the extra output generated by one more unit of variable input eventually declines. This should be intuitive to understand. Another example. On 10 acres of land, in order to grow as much corn as possible, farmer needs to cultivate, hire labor, use the best seeds, and provide water, fertilizer, and pesticide. The farmer needs to use the right amount of fertilizer. Using no fertilizer probably won't give the best harvest. On the other hand, burying the corn plants with tons of fertilizer definitely won't give a good yield either. If law of diminishing returns does not hold, we simply can feed the whole world with the 10 acres of land, produce all the chocolate the world demands in Charlie's factory, making all the clothes needed by people all over the world in a sweatshop, produce all vehicles on one production line. This obviously is not true. As more of one input being added successively on other fixed resources, the fixed resource will eventually become bottleneck of production expansion. The disproportionate increase in one input simply does not work. After understanding the intuition, let's formalize the idea with this data. This is a hypothetical data simulated from the census manufacturer statistics. The first column is the quantity of variable input. In this example, that is the number of workers hired by Charlie. No worker is hired, 1 worker, 2 workers, 3 workers, and on and on. Here we have observations up to 20 workers. We can say the variable input is successfully added. It increases conveniently by 1 unit. The second column provides the number of chocolate bars produced by the corresponding worker. When nobody works, there is no chocolate bar. The first worker produces 10 units. The second produces 20 units. Together, the first two of them produce 30 chocolate bars in total. That's the total product of the first 2 workers. The third worker produces 40 chocolate bars. Then the first 3 workers together produce 70 bars. And we can see that as more and more workers are added on fixed factory, the extra chocolate bars produced by another worker first increase, but eventually declines, and it can be negative. It's not because the workers added in later are not good at their jobs or inferior to the workers getting to work at the beginning. I know in production possibility curve we learned that inputs are not fully adaptable to alternative work. But here we assume all workers are equally qualified as they are trained the same way for the simplification of the model. The marginal product brought in by another worker eventually declines here because we discussed that the factory is fixed in production capacity. More workers eventually result in overcrowded space and negatively influence the production. And total product also follow the same pattern. Increase first, achieves its maximum value, and then declines. Here, in order to make it intuitive, I tell you marginal product, the extra chocolate bars produced by corresponding worker first, then add up to get the total product. In real world, it's actually easier to get information of total product for a corresponding number of workers. We can figure out marginal product then. As we learned in Lecture 2, marginal analysis, we know that the marginal product is the change in total product divided by the change in worker. Here, conveniently, the change of worker is always 1. For example, if we want to figure out the marginal product brought in by the third worker, we need to check the total product produced by 3 workers. It is 70 chocolate bars. And the total product produced by the first 2 workers, that is 30 units. Then the marginal product brought in by the third worker can be calculated as the change in total product divided by the change in number of workers. The result is 40 units, consistent with what we had before. The next variable is average product. We use AP to represent. This should not be foreign to you. Average product is calculated as total output divided by the total variable input. For example, if the average product when 5 workers are employed is missing, we need the information of total product produced by 5 workers, which is 250 units, and divided by the number of workers 5. The answer is 48, consistent with the data. If we plot the production data into 2-dimensional axis set, with the number of workers on horizontal axis and the total product, marginal product, and average product on vertical axis, these are the graphical expressions. Please spend some time, observe the curves. Are there some interesting patterns? We can see that all 3 curves, total product, marginal product, average product, first increase, achieves maximum value, then decline. But how are they related with one another? Let's focus on the relationship between marginal and total product first. Geometrically, marginal product is the slope of the total product curve. So if you pick one point on the total product curve and draw a tangent line, the slope of the tangent line is the corresponding marginal product. Total product curve at first is pretty flat, and then start to increase with an increasing rate because marginal product at this time increases. When marginal product is maximized, total product curve slope is the biggest. Then marginal product starts to decline, so total product increases but with a decreasing rate. When marginal product is 0, total product achieves its maximum value. Afterwards, marginal is negative, so total product declines. Then we move on to the relationship between marginal product and average product. This shouldn't be foreign to you as the relationship between marginal and average is covered in Lecture 2. when the marginal product curve is on top of the average product curve, which means when marginal product is bigger than average product, marginal product drives average product up, average product increases. Using the example in Lecture 2. If I have a class of 50 students taking an exam and I want to calculate the average score, then summing up everyone's score and divide the summation by the number of participants is the approach I'm using. Let's say the average is hypothetically 80. Now imagine we have another student. 51st student joins our class from another session with a score of 90. Then the marginal score associated with the 51st is 90. After averaging his or her performance, the new average will be pulled up a little bit. Then, when marginal product curve crosses average product curve, which means marginal product equals average product, average product achieves its maximum value. Afterwards, marginal product curve is below average product curve. Marginal product is smaller than the average product. It pulls average product downward. Average product curve declines. So, using the example, if the average score of the 50 students is 80 and another student joins the class with a score of 60, the marginal score of the 51st student is 60, then his or her score will pull the new average down. Although all three product curves first increase and then declines, they all show law of diminishing returns. Economists are most interested in the performance of marginal product. We are particularly interested in at which input level marginal product starts to decline. It's called diminishing marginal returns. In this example, marginal product achieves its maximum value at quantity of labor 8. Beyond the 8th worker, starting from the 9th worker, marginal product declines. Diminishing marginal returns starts to be effective. Based on how marginal product change, the production can be segregated into 3 categories. When labor is smaller than or equal to 8, there is an increase in marginal returns. When labor is bigger than 8, there is diminishing marginal returns. In particular, if labor is larger than 16, there is negative marginal returns. Let's do a practice. Please pause and come back for the answer. Alright, in order to figure out at which worker diminishing marginal returns become evident, we have to figure out marginal product first, because the table only provides total product information. The marginal product of labor can be calculated with this formula. It is the change in total product over the extra labor that generates this extra output. When nobody is hired, there's no output. When one worker is hired, the output is 20. Then the extra output generated by the first worker apparently is 20. When 2 workers are hired, the total output is 50. But we know 20 of them can be produced by the first worker. So the marginal product of the second worker is 50 minus 20, 30 units. Following the same rationale, the marginal product of the third worker, the fourth worker, and the fifth worker can be calculated. Checking the marginal product. it increases first. At 3 workers, it achieves maximum value. And the marginal product starts to decline from the 4th worker. Therefore, diminishing marginal returns become evident with the addition of the 4th worker. Did you pick the right one? Alright, that's all I have for this video. In next lecture, I will cover short-run production costs. Thank you for watching. Please like and save this video and subscribe my channel for more lectures in economics.